Hi, how are you?
Hey Sergio, yeah, good, thank you. How about yourself?
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming here. We are so excited to have you here. We are now live streaming on LinkedIn.
Great. Hey LinkedIn.
Okay. Hatice, we can't hear you.
Yes. Good morning,
Oh,
everyone.
good morning. Here, my team and I are so excited to have you as a guest speaker today. Thank you very much again. Today, we're gonna give some information about Clarusway, and then we will give the floors to you. We want to hear your Salesforce journey and your success story. And Hatice, my instructor, we are Clarusway, an IT bootcamp, and also we have different hat. We are 340 at the moment. We are trying to do some Salesforce business. We are so inspired about your documents and you, of course, by the way. And Hatice, could you please give some information about our bootcamp?
Absolutely. So, good morning, everyone. Hello, world. Good afternoon, Ben. It's around 1 o'clock over there, I believe. So, those who don't know me, my name is Hatice. I'm currently residing in Canada, working as a Salesforce developer at a consulting company here in Canada, also working as an instructor and mentoring student here at Clarusway, like Sergio mentioned. Let me introduce us. So Clarusway is a Virginia-based IT bootcamp. We started our training journey back in 2019. Since then, more than 2,000 students have been graduated from 29 countries, mainly in the United States, Canada, and Europe. Clarusway has been specialized in 5 major areas like Salesforce, cloud engineering, data science, software development, and cybersecurity. We have certified and experienced instructors and mentors who are working in the industry, and they are transferring the most up-to-date best practices to our students and helping them to be ready for the market. Clarusway is currently holding the multiple Best Bootcamp Award from independent accredited companies. And the latest one, we've been recognized as one of the best bootcamp, coding bootcamp of 2023 by Course Report. So we are just making sure that our students are getting most out of it and be ready with resume preps, updating LinkedIn profile, have mock interviews, assisting students with hiring process, technical interviews, and many more. So it is a privilege to have Ben McCarthy from Salesforce. Ben, how are you going there?
I'm great. How are you doing? Thank you very much for the invite.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure to have you here. So I'm quite sure everyone knows you, Ben, but those who don't know you, he's known as Salesforce Ben, who created a beautiful blog about 8 to 9 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And he's also a non-executive director at a Salesforce company. I believe it's a consulting company in the United Kingdom. At the same time, he recently got a position as a strategic advisor at Pipe Launch, who are offering great products for various business pains. And I would love to congratulate you on that one.
Thank you very much.
Lots of reasons why I'm excited about this one. Of course, your accent. 2, you're currently doing an amazing job by contributing to Salesforce community with your website, helping individuals finding their unique career path to pursue their dreams. From our side, we are closely following your articles, the interview questions you publish. One of my favorite one is the article where you talked about products in detail and also the roles and responsibilities of Salesforce profession in a specific role, which is quite handy when we speak to our students. It feels like a website is a one-stop shop for those who are at the very early stages in their career. So I think I've done enough talking here, Ben. The floor is yours. Once again, we really appreciate you being here. Over to you.
Cheers. Thank you very much. What an introduction. And thank you very much for Selchuk for reaching out and organizing this as well. So yes, pleasure to be here today with all of you. I'm happy to give you an insight into my background, which is a bit, kind of conventional to some extent, but I never thought I would ever be running a media site / blog like salesforceben.com. So my career has kind of taken a funny turn then. I've got a very short presentation just to introduce myself, which I will share now. Can you see that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Cool. Great. So I'll just introduce myself, and then I believe we're going to have a Q&A after that. So very happy to take any questions you've got about Salesforce or careers or anything like that. So yeah, my name is Ben McCarthy, also known as Salesforce Ben. So I started my career 10 years ago when I landed in Salesforce by accident, as so many people do. I was always kind of into IT, into computers. I used to build PCs, like custom water-cooled PCs and stuff like that. So I was always into technology, IT. And I went to university and did information systems, which was actually perfect for Salesforce because it was half business and half computer science. So it didn't really dive into development. It was more about, it's called information systems. So more about high level kind of IT planning, diagrams, integrating systems, but not actually development. But I really never knew what I wanted to do with my career. I was never like super motivated when I was at uni. I didn't really look at what careers were available, but I knew I wasn't a developer, so I couldn't get a job as an engineer or anything like that. So when I eventually landed in Salesforce, and I remember on my first day in my graduate role, I was, they were showing us Salesforce and clicks not code, building fields, custom objects. And it just instantly clicked with me. It was, as I'm sure a lot of people on this call have managed to see, it's such a powerful platform, and you don't need to be a developer. If you are a developer, it's a big bonus because, you can code in Apex, Lightning, Visualforce, but you don't need to be a developer. So everything kind of fell into place then. I was like, this is amazing that there's something out there that me with an IT background, but someone who doesn't know how to code can add value to businesses and can build out requirements using nothing but clicks. So that was 10 years ago. I've moved around a fair bit in my career. So I used to work as a graduate consultant, but moved into an admin role quite shortly after that. So I was running a Salesforce org of 120 people by myself, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Experience Cloud, or used to be called Community Cloud, used to be called Portals before that. So I was doing all of that. I then left to join a company called Conga, which some of you might be familiar with, which is an ISV on the App Exchange. So back in 2012, it was one of the biggest ISVs in the world. And actually, it only had about 60 employees globally, but it was still one of the biggest, which, now you've got ISVs, which are way over 1,000 employees. So it kind of shows you the growth of the ecosystem, even from 10 years ago. So Conga did document generation. So I was doing customer support on helping people with the tool, also doing sales as well and demos. It was a bit of a funny role where you did absolutely everything. They don't do that anymore because it didn't really work that well, but it was good fun. I then moved over to the world of consulting. So although Conga was a great company and it was great to learn about a particular product, so really niche down your knowledge. You interact with the Salesforce platform because Conga was built on the Salesforce platform, but it wasn't Salesforce. It wasn't diving into requirements of Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, learning all about the cool features on these different platforms. So I wanted to dive a bit deeper. So I joined a consultancy called Empower, based in London. So I was one of the first employees of the London office, but it was a Berlin consultancy. Also had offices in Spain and Switzerland. And I was in the right place at the right time, kind of, because so we had an office of 3 people, and the managing director of that office left after about 3 or 4 months after I was in the role. So we were like, oh God, this isn't going very well. We didn't really have any clients or anything like that. So I got promoted to managing director by default, and it was really just the title in terms of a promotion. It didn't come with any salary raises or anything like that. Not really much more responsibility because we didn't have any clients. So I kind of took it upon myself that it'd be quite a good opportunity in this new managing director role to grow the business and make my mark in London, in the London consulting world. So I was there for about 4 years, and we grew it to 25 people and $2.5 million in revenue after that time. So that was very cool, very exciting, bit scary at some points because I really had no idea what I was doing, but you learn quickly when you're in that situation. So I left in 2020. And kind of throughout all of that, I've been running Salesforce Ben. So Salesforce Ben started in 2014 as my personal blog. So I'll actually just skip to the next slide. So started in 2014, and I was never, a lot of people think I was one of the first Salesforce bloggers, and I guess I was one of the first, but I wasn't the first. David Liu with SFDC 99, which I'm sure a lot of you might know, he was around. Brent Downey had Admin Hero. Some of you might remember Button Click Admin by Mike Gerholt, which was actually kind of the original Salesforce blog, and Salesforce actually acquired it and brought him on board to run their admin evangelist team. So I was one of the first people, but not the first. But the reason I started it was because it was before Trailhead. And I remember one of the first blogs that I wrote was on recurring milestones in Service Cloud, and there was no documentation around it whatsoever. So, I was trying to piece together how it works and things like that. But I thought, I might as well write this up somewhere. So, well, one, I can refer to it later if I need it, but also other people can. So I might as well put it online. And I just started doing that. I quite enjoyed writing. I was terrible at English at school. I was like a straight C student. So it definitely wasn't my forte. But I really enjoyed building out the website, getting to know HTML, CSS a bit. And I think the real motivator was getting messages from people on LinkedIn, comments on the blog of people saying, oh, thank you so much for this. It really helped me out. And that was the real motivator to start doing it more. And I didn't just kind of focus on technical tutorials and stuff like that, but also kind of fun, like, I don't know if anyone reads BuzzFeed, but the lists that they do, top 10 of this, top 10 of that. So trying to do kind of fun blogs as well, like top 10 acquisitions or facts you didn't know about Salesforce and things like that. And the blog started getting quite a lot of traction. So on Google Analytics, I have up on I've got a screen up here and I've got it up there all the time. So I can kind of see what posts people are going on, what's popular. And I got so addicted to the statistics on there because, it's nice to see the graph going up and more users being exposed to the blog and more people reaching out and saying thank you for it. So that was really nice. And it really just spurred me on to double down on it and spend my evenings writing blogs. But then I kind of pivoted a bit because I realized that I could only blog about so much. So, I was an admin and I moved to a consultant role, so I could blog about consultant stuff. But I wanted to give people information on developer things and architect things and, all kinds of different areas in Salesforce. But I didn't have the knowledge to do that. So I started reaching out to people to say, hey, do you want to come on board and write a post for us? And that's kind of really how the blog started to really grow, because it didn't just become, even though it's called Salesforce Ben, it wasn't just my blog, it was a community blog of lots of different contributors. So we started doing that maybe in 2016, 2017, and the site's just kind of snowballed from there. So we had our first full-time employee in 2020, and now we've got 12, soon to be about 15 people on the team. So we have a team of content writers, content editors, and they not only like proofread the posts, make sure they look nice, but they also advise the guest posters as well. So a lot of people that we work with are from technical Salesforce backgrounds. So they're not necessarily content writers, but they have a lot of great knowledge in their head. So we want to help them get it out there. So we give them advice and, give them tips on how to make their post better and things like that. So we think we've got quite a good relationship between people because we kind of provide them with that knowledge. And then they're putting out better blog posts that get read by more people. So that's the kind of relationship that we have there. So now we're getting about 400,000 monthly users and over 1 million page views per month, which is pretty crazy. And we're looking to hit 500,000 monthly users sometime this first quarter, hopefully. And if you haven't been on the site before, check it out, because there's so much great content on there built up over years and years. So there's probably something like nearly 2,000 posts, I would imagine, on there now. And we're covering everything from Salesforce news, Salesforce releases, Salesforce acquisitions, certification guides, and so much random stuff. How to build out a Salesforce center of excellence, and all these kind of things that people are interested in the Salesforce ecosystem. And then on top of just kind of the core media site, the core blog, we've also got a courses site, so courses.salesforceben.com. And there we produce courses internally. So we have Christine Marshall, who's a Salesforce MVP, heads that up. So she's got practice exams on there. She's got an admin course. If there's people, I think some people on this call have just started their careers, and there's a free Salesforce career course on there. So it walks you through the different roles available, career paths, the different products. We've tried to make it as a really good foundation course for you to learn everything about the Salesforce ecosystem. And that's completely free. So you can go on courses.salesforceben.com and sign up for that. We've also got flow courses and things like that, and we're looking to add a lot more this year as well. We've got a job board as well. So if people are looking to land their job or looking to move jobs, jobs.salesforceben has got about 300 live jobs on there, I think. So you can sign up, and then you can get the new jobs that come through delivered to your inbox, which is pretty cool. And we've also just relaunched our YouTube channel as well, which we're really excited about. So we've always wanted to do video, because I think blogs are great, and I personally prefer reading blogs as opposed to a video. But I think a lot of people do prefer videos, especially when it's a more complex topic that it might be hard to get your head around just by reading a blog. And with a video, you've got images and you can actually see the person speaking. So sometimes it's a bit easier to understand those things. So check out our new YouTube channel as well. And I think that is pretty much everything. I included this kind of funny picture at the top because when I was working as an admin back in 2015, 2013, it must have been, someone created that in the company and called me Salesforce boy, because I was the admin that everyone would go to with their problems. And that was like kind of an inspiration for the blog Salesforce Ben. Like if you in 2014, when I created it, there was a big like Superman logo with my face drawn over it. So yeah, that was we've changed that now. It's a bit old school, but yeah, that was kind of the inspiration for it. So yeah, that's everything, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for the great introduction. There are lots of questions, but I will try to put in an order to ask you. First, we have attendees from all over the world, especially from United States, Canada, and Europe, and also Turkey. The attendees from Turkey wonders, how do you see the market on Turkey, Salesforce market especially?
I'm not too sure, unfortunately. I've never spoken to that many people from the Turkish Salesforce community. I'd love to know more about it though, so feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to learn more about it. So I don't really have too much information on that. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. And a question about nowadays, you know the news coming from Salesforce. There will be so many Salesforce talents in the market anymore because of the latest news about Salesforce. What do you see the job opportunities from now on after the Salesforce news?
Yeah, good question. So I mean, the layoffs are really sad, and I think to some extent they were a bit inevitable because all tech companies are laying off people. Amazon and I can't think of the other ones off the top of my head. Meta. There's also news that Microsoft are laying off 5% of their workforce, which is like 18,000. I think there were rumors at the moment, but it is a big shame. And I think there's a lot of people online kind of saying this doesn't affect anything. The Salesforce market is booming and will continue to boom. And I think it's important to take a step back and recognize that there are some negative points here. Salesforce in the last quarterly earnings in the end of November, Salesforce had a year-over-year growth of something like, I think it was 15%. They haven't had that in like forever. So that is, the growth of Salesforce is slightly slowing down. It used to be about 25% and now it's 15%. And there are loads of media reports saying, this is pretty bad. Microsoft and Oracle are growing a lot faster. But 15% normally is incredible, incredible growth for a company that's turning over 30 billion or something like that. So there is a lot of negative news, but it's kind of in comparison to Salesforce's past growth because it's been so great. And but there are a lot of factors that are affecting that, like inflation, the war, the economic downturn, things like that. But they are still growing, just not as fast as before. And I think it'd be really important to look at the next quarterly earnings that will come out next in about a month's time to see, if they've rectified the issues. In terms of the job market, Salesforce brought out that paper last year saying they want to create 9.3 million new jobs by 2026. And although there has been a shortage of Salesforce professionals in the job market, that number might come slightly down now because Salesforce is growing a bit slower, but they're still growing. So there's still going to be jobs out there. We might just see a slight slowdown of the boom that we've seen over the past couple of years. I think the other really important thing to remember is Salesforce have a huge market share of the CRM space. So I think it was 23% or something like that. And if you compare it to like the mobile phone market, that's the same as what Samsung and Apple have. So it's huge. That's a huge portion of the market. And Salesforce is an extremely sticky software, right? If a business implements it, it's not like they'll go, oh, there's a recession, let's get rid of it. Like they need that software to drive their business and to drive efficiency. So there's definitely loads of people still using Salesforce. Salesforce is still continuing to grow, but I think we might see a slight cool down in the Salesforce job market. But for anyone who maybe hasn't landed a job yet or something like that, I don't think it's no time to panic and go, right, I might as well give this up. I just think it's important to to align your expectations to the current market that we're in, which might just mean, let's say it usually takes 6 to 8 months to get a job. Maybe that's, will be a few months longer, as opposed to the last couple of years when there's been this huge post-COVID boom. So that's what I think, but I think also maybe don't listen to me because I'm not an economist or anything like that. And also all this news is coming out very recently, so I think the effects of it we'll start to see over the next few months.
Thank you very much. And we have admins and developers at the moment, and some students going on developer part and the others are on the admin side. And there are some concerns to jump in the market without any experience. How can they land their first job? Do you recommend to have some volunteer opportunities, or can you recommend different topics?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a sticking point for quite a few years now, because I think when Trailhead came out in 2016, there was loads of new people coming to the market, and this was the thing, right? It was hard for people to get a job or without having that experience. But I think there are lots of things you can do to get experience. The first thing that come to mind is there's a company called Clicked in San Francisco, click.com. And they are partnering with Salesforce to deliver hands-on experience. So you're not working with a real client, but you're working in small groups and solving issues. It's led by an experienced Salesforce professional, and this is completely free. So you can go to click.com and you can sign up to that. I think the volunteer experience, there's a lot of talk in the Salesforce community at the moment about this isn't what people should do, because if you're a new Salesforce administrator, a new developer, the last thing that you want to do is get a volunteer job and actually cause some issues internally at the charity. That would be the worst thing, because they're a charity, not a huge amount of disposable income. So I think it's still a valid way, but I think you really need a mentor attached to you to be able to provide you with advice to look over work before deploying anything to production. Saying that, after I had about 6 months of on-job Salesforce experience, I went out into the market and started freelancing for charities. So I felt like I knew the Salesforce platform well enough to be able to go out there and work for charities for free. So, if you do, and that also accelerated my learning because, I was doing my day job and then I was doing some volunteering in the evening. So I think it is possible, if you have a mentor or if you already have some hands-on experience. What the last thing that I think to say is building something that I did when I first started learning sales was I built a dev org out. I made up some requirements for a gym and started building out those requirements in a dev org. And that allowed me to test out Salesforce features and functionalities against a real world use case. And, it's not to say that doing that will land you a job, but I think what it will do is if you are in a job interview, you can talk about the dev org. You don't want to lie and say it was a real business, but you can talk about it and say, I wrote out some requirements, I solved them, I used these features, because when you talk like that, you're talking like it kind of was a real project. So I think overall you have to be creative. It's definitely not not easy to get experience, but I think those are a few ways that you can do it.
Thank you very much for the answer. And a question about the future of Flow. We can extend this question about Salesforce feature because there are some new releases, Genie, and some other topics newly attached to the Salesforce. How do you see about the future about Salesforce and Flow and the other things?
Yeah, so Flow is super exciting. I haven't been technical on Salesforce for about 6 years now or something like that. So Flow is something I personally haven't looked into too much, but I do understand it at a high level. And it's incredible to see how powerful it is in comparison to workflow rules and process builders, which is the functionality that I was using. But I mean, flows are going to be the default, process builders. Workflow rules have already been turned off to create new ones. Process builders will be turned off, I think, next month or something like that. So Flow will be the only way to create new automations in Salesforce. So it's something that every Salesforce professional has to learn. So if you haven't dived into it yet, then it's something that you should start looking into. But I think Salesforce has been improving Flow for years and years and years. They haven't been updating Process Builder or workflow rules. So it's extraordinarily powerful. And especially during this economic downturn, Salesforce professionals that can maximize value for the businesses they're working for using tools like Flow are really going to stand above the rest. So in fact, if there's a lot of people on this call who haven't landed a job yet, if you can master Flow before you start applying to jobs, that is a massive bonus, because it's got a lot easier to kind of to build basic automations now. But to really understand it and really build complex automations, that takes time, and there is a learning curve there. So if you can get a head start on that is a massive bonus. I think things like Genie, so CDPs and Genie, they're very expensive to buy and to implement. So I think things like that will be challenging to learn without working for a consultancy or a company that's implementing it. So yeah. I would personally focus on other things to learn, because it's similar with CPQ as well. CPQ is a very complex tool, and it was something that I never learned, but from what I know, from what I've spoken to other people about, it's something that's quite hard to learn just by yourself, because you really need to be working on a project. So, things like that, I think there's probably other things to focus on, like Flow. I think one of the other things to mention as well is DevOps Center. So for those that don't know, DevOps Center is a new tool that came out in December, which is basically going to replace Salesforce change sets. Change sets are still going to work for years probably, but it's the cogs are moving to retire change sets and replacing the DevOps Center. And change sets never used modern DevOps practices. For a lot of people, they're an absolute nightmare to deploy changes into production. So DevOps Center is the first step towards a modern DevOps best practice tool that companies can use to implement to efficiently deploy changes from sandbox to production. So that's another thing that I think people should definitely start learning.
Thank you very much. And there are some rumors about that learning Salesforce is easy, but I think it's not so easy. It has some challenging points, and it is sometimes makes unmotivated because some topics are so hard to understand, so hard to learn. How did you motivate yourself in your Salesforce journey at the beginning? Did you lose your motivation anytime?
So I was quite lucky because before I had a Salesforce admin role, so the first company that I joined was a graduate consultant role. So they were kind of training us up in a group of people. So, I was very lucky. I was also lucky because I came from an IT background. So some of the concepts like relationships and things like that did make sense to me. But saying that, I remember doing, practice exams and things like that for the Salesforce admin test. And even things like relationships, like understand, if you have a parent-child relationship, understanding, which way the data flows for formula fields and roll-ups and things like that just confused me. But I think the thing is, it's also logical. After you've learned the theory, after you've practiced in a dev org, it should hopefully start to make sense for people. So I think it is just a case of learning in different ways, watching videos, reading documentation, doing practice exams, do our admin course on Salesforce Ben. And I think the most, so yeah, I think for me, I was quite lucky because I was in that kind of training groups, which kept me motivated. But I think for some other people, I think the thing is there are so many examples of people that transitioned from non-tech careers, like being a hairdresser or something like that, who are now 10 years into their Salesforce career and their CTAs, things like that. So it is possible for anyone to become a Salesforce expert. It just might take slightly longer for some people, slightly shorter for other people, depending on how quickly you can grasp the concepts. So the jobs are out there. It can be learnt for free, basically. Paying for courses and stuff might slightly accelerate it, but it can be learnt for free. And I would say the last thing to motivate you is get involved with the Salesforce community. And I'm sure a lot of people are doing that because you're on this call and involved with this group of people. But sign up to your local community user groups. Go to local Salesforce events, meet people in the ecosystem. Networking is so powerful in the Salesforce ecosystem because everyone's so welcoming and everyone wants to help people. There's a saying that some people might know about sending the elevator back down, which is basically like, when people have succeeded in their career and they've been helped by people, sending the elevator back down means like, those senior people are now going to want to help the junior people because they were also helped when they were junior. And I think that kind of mindset exists within the Salesforce ecosystem. So, networking can help you build connections, potentially get jobs, but also just be helped by the Salesforce community.
Thank you for the answer and your contribution to Salesforce and for the Salesforce talents and the new learners are so valuable. We also get some benefits of your documents and your articles. Thank you very much. And a very popular question, and the OpenAI and ChatGPT. What do you think will it affect the future of Salesforce? Will there be any effect by OpenAI to the Salesforce?
Yes, I think so. I mean, there's such a buzz on social media at the moment. Like my feeds are just full up with ChatGPT stuff. But I kind of have a feeling, we get it with like, Salesforce released the NFT cloud last year and we haven't really heard much since. And it could be the same with ChatGPT, but I doubt it because people are finding so many practical applications for it. I think I think there's the obvious stuff, a lot of Salesforce influencers, and we've got a blog up about producing test classes, Apex classes, formulas, things like that. That is a very obvious use case. Like, I'm sure someone's going to build an app that's going to be like an admin assist, Salesforce admin assistant or something like that. I think one slight criticism of ChatGPT is it's not 100% accurate all the time. Maybe it'll produce an Apex class that isn't best practice, and it's going to, run an infinite loop or something like that. If there was a way to generate it and like test it straight away against your org, that could be quite cool. So I think there are a lot of practical applications for admins and developers, but I think what's going to be really interesting is how maybe Salesforce themselves or Salesforce App Exchange partners integrate it into their product. So one of the companies that I'm working with at the moment has developed a pop-up inside of Salesforce. So it's for salespeople. So let's say a salesperson wants to contact a prospect of theirs. They can open this ChatGPT thing and say, write me a cold email to this prospect. And ChatGPT will grab the first name from the record. It will grab the company from the record, and it will create a custom email to send out. And that's fairly basic, I would say. But what I think is really powerful is if you put lots of, like, say companies have like sales playbooks. So if like some customer has an issue about price, you can look in the playbook and you can go, okay, well, this is how I get around that objection. So imagine if you could put those sales playbooks in Salesforce, and then the customer has an issue about price, and you can go to ChatGPT and say, how do the customer has an objection about price, they're in the manufacturing industry, what should I say? And it would tell you exactly what you should say to get around that. So I think a lot of potential for Salesforce professionals, but also the users of Salesforce as well.
Thank you very much. And a question, how do you update yourself in your Salesforce journey?
How do I stay informed?
How do you update about Salesforce? You check out releases, or you go to Trailhead, or whatever.
So I mean, quite a good thing about running a blog is that I read quite a lot of the posts because I'm on the site all the time. So, the spring 23 release has just come out, for example, and, people from our team write about some of the top features in Flow, top features for developers. So, I read a lot on our blog, but also on LinkedIn, to be honest. I find, I kind of, it's not great, but I kind of, scroll through LinkedIn in the evenings like someone would Facebook or Instagram, just because whenever there's a Salesforce acquisition or a big bit of Salesforce news, someone's usually put it on LinkedIn. So I think connecting to certain Salesforce influencers on LinkedIn or Twitter, Twitter is massive with the Salesforce community. So yeah, those are the two main places. I don't personally go on Trailhead too much, just because I'm not so technical anymore. But Trailhead is one of the best resources out there. So yeah, definitely a good one.
We recommend to our trainees that to land the job on the market, and also we recommend them to they can establish their own consulting companies. So what do you recommend for the beginners to establish their own Salesforce consulting companies, and how they can be a Salesforce partner?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of routes you can go down. So you can either establish a Salesforce partner, or you can just become a Salesforce freelancer. And they're very different, because establishing a Salesforce consultancy means that you kind of want to build a big business. You join as a partner, you want to get bigger projects, you need to hire more people, which is great for some people. You can earn a lot of money if you've got a big consultancy. It can be a lot of fun. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, it can be something that's quite an easy business to start in comparison to other startups, because it's Salesforce consulting, and people on this call know how to do that. So that's one route. And then the other route is freelancing, which is obviously more about flexibility, I would say. If you're a Salesforce freelancer, you can set your own hours. You can have one client if you want. You can have 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you want, and you can set your own hours. So yeah, those are the two kind of distinct paths. In terms of setting it up, I mean, it's really all about networking. When I started running the Salesforce consultancy in London, whoever runs a Salesforce consultancy, the majority of the way they get their leads for customers is from Salesforce. So you've really got to build those relationships with Salesforce account executives, become a registered partner, sponsor events, do webinars to attract Salesforce customers, do a lot of outreach on LinkedIn, introducing yourself to people that use Salesforce. And if you're a freelancer, so someone's actually Ankit Tangier from Berlin. He's produced a Salesforce freelancing course on our courses platform. And he speaks at a lot of events and user groups and things like that. And he says the main way he gets leads from being a freelancer is through his personal brand. So he did a podcast for a while. He's got a blog. He speaks at events. And by putting himself out there, that's how he gets clients. And he's also he's of the mindset that he doesn't want to work 40, 50-hour weeks and earn loads of money. He wants to earn enough money to live the lifestyle he wants to live, but he doesn't want to work all the time. He wants to do hobbies and things like that. So I don't know how many hours he works a week, but let's say 20. He's comfortable in the money that he earns. He gets to spend a lot of the free time doing what he wants to do. And that's great for him because that's the lifestyle that he wants to live. So I think becoming a freelancer definitely gives you a lot of flexibility in your life to kind of set your own hours and things like that.
Thank you very much. And a question about job postings. They require lots of skills, but which other technical skills do you recommend to have for the beginners, such as data analyst, UX and UI designing expertise? Which other side technical skills do you recommend for the beginners?
Yeah, good question. So I think soft skills are extremely important in Salesforce roles. Obviously being a good communicator and things like that are obviously key. But also things like business analysis, I guess you would call that a soft skill, but understanding how to gather user requirements properly. It was something that I wasn't very good at when I was an admin, and it came back to bite me because I produced something that I thought one of my users wanted, but I didn't ask enough questions. And then when I produced it, they're like, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? And, I blamed them at the time, stupid user, but, really it was my fault for not asking the right questions. So, business analysis, I think is important. You mentioned, UX, UI there. For those that don't know, Salesforce have now created 2 certifications for designer. So there's the strategy designer and one other one. And that's, they're putting a big emphasis on that now. And I think it's really important because with Lightning and the Lightning app builder, you can do anything you want, really, which is good and bad because, if you put too much stuff on the screen and, ruin the user experience, adoption might drop and things like that. So yeah, that's another good skill. And the good thing is that's kind of within the Salesforce ecosystem, the business analysis and the designer search, you can go out, revise for them and pass them. So yeah, no, I think those are really important. I can't think of many others off the top of my head, but I mean, if you're more in the developer camp, I think having knowledge of integrating with other systems, AWS, Azure, things like that. Many of the enterprise projects are gonna include those integrations. So if you do have experience of that, or if you're interested, it's probably worth doing some investigation into some of those other cloud apps.
Thank you very much. We also care about soft skills. We have soft skill instructors. Hatice is one of them. And it is very important to have hard skills and the soft skills and also a good English speaking level. And
Yeah.
we have non-native students from all over the world. We say all the time, improve your English skills. Which GDPR level do you recommend to have for the beginners about English?
I don't know what that is, sorry.
B2, C1, C2, because we are mostly non-natives. And which English level do you recommend to be a team member and also a senior team lead? Which English level must they have?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about the levels, unfortunately.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't
So
really comment.
fluent English is necessary, I think.
Fluent
Speaking
English.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the better English you have, yeah. I think it really comes down to whether the person who you're working with can clearly understand you. I've worked with people in other countries before, offshore in India and Pakistan and things like that, and some of their English isn't fantastic, but I can still understand what they want. Sometimes their written English is better than spoken. And I quite like to communicate over email. So for me, that's not it's better because I can understand the written English. And obviously you can use tools like Grammarly and these Chrome add-ons to help you. So yeah, it's very important. But yeah, I think it's important to focus on written and spoken.
And which areas will be the best to focus on for the future? MuleSoft, Copado, Velocity, DevOps Centers, PQ. Which one do you recommend for my students?
So if you go on Google and type in Salesforce special, I'll drop it in the chat. So my colleague Lucy Mazelon put this together. And she worked with a few thought leaders in the Salesforce ecosystem to come up with the best specializations to focus on in the Salesforce ecosystem. So if you scroll down on that blog post, you can see a big list like CPQ, omnichannel knowledge, Hyperforce, Heroku, and they've given a demand rating, which is how in demand that skill is, and then an effort rating as well, so how much effort that is to learn. So you can have a look at this, and of course, this might not be 100% accurate. It's the interpretation of people that works on the post with Lucy, but it will give you a good indication of how hard something is to learn and how hard it is to learn and how in demand it is. I would say, I think it's quite funny actually with DevOps Center. It came out about a month ago, and I haven't seen that many people talking about it on social media and stuff like that. So I don't know if people are starting to use it or not, but this is a replacement for change sets. So the more people that can learn that, the better. And I mean, just because you mentioned Copado there, Copado and GearSet, AutoRabbit, Flowsome, they're the DevOps platforms that have been around for 5+ years. So they're a lot more advanced than the DevOps Center. This is just, the first iteration. So, and those platforms have quite a lot of learning centers online when you can get certified in Copado, and GearSet have the DevOps launch platform. So they're giving away a lot of free content that you can learn DevOps best practices in, which will actually help you with the DevOps Center as well, because DevOps is a very broad term that contains similar processes, but the platforms will obviously differ. So yeah, I think of the ones that you listed, DevOps for me is probably the most easily accessible. I think things like MuleSoft, Marketing Cloud, CDP are very in demand, but pretty hard to learn unless you're working on a project. You can only really learn the theory. But with something like DevOps Center, you can get stuck in, start implementing it, start testing it out.
Thank you very much. Even the Salesforce employees, account executives, and SEs refer to your articles. How did you achieve this?
So yeah, I do get sent screenshots sometimes. I have a few friends that work for Salesforce, so they sometimes screenshot their Slack and send me it if someone shared an article, which is quite funny. I think the way we achieve that is we've always been of the mindset that we try and explain things as simply as possible so that anyone can understand them, because quite a lot of when Genie came out, I think it wasn't so clear to quite a lot of people what it was. So Lucy Maslon, my business partner, wrote up a blog post explaining it very simply, and I think that's one of the things we're very good at, is explaining complex concepts in a simple manner. And I'm not saying that Salesforce aren't good at that, but they are a sales and marketing company, so they're always trying to sell something, while we're more interested in just explaining what it is, without buzzwords and things like that. So I think that's probably one of the reasons that people internal at Salesforce like to read our stuff, because it explains it in pure English, without any of the sales and marketing stuff around it.
Thank you very much. And any questions from my team? Selçuk, Hatice, David, any questions?
I have a question about time management. You must be so busy, and how do you manage your time?
Thank you for the question. I'm not the best person to ask this, because I think I'm quite efficient and productive, but I tend to email myself stuff. So if I'm walking around or something and I think of something, I'll email myself. So my inbox is just full of emails from other people, emails from myself, and it's a bit of a mess. However, a lot of our team use Asana to manage their time, which is a lot more effective, and I'm slowly trying to move over to that so I can work better. But yeah, I think using a tool like to-do list tool is really important. There's a book actually called Getting Things Done, which is really cool. It's a productivity book about how to be more productive. A thing that I follow from that, actually, is probably the only thing that I remember from the book, because I haven't read it in a while, but is if something takes you under 2 minutes to do, just do it. So if you have things in your to-do list that takes you 2 minutes, just do them. Just 10 minutes, quickly tick them off. And also for me, it's important about blocking out time on my calendar, because I do so much random stuff throughout the day, like sales and webinars like this and things like that. But when it comes to writing content, you need to sit down, focus with no distractions. So it's important for me to kind of block out times in my calendar as well.
Thank you very much.
About FlowFest. It is a great competition. First one is Yumi, is the winner, and we also invite him as a guest speaker.
Oh, cool.
How do you describe FlowFest competition for future?
Yeah, so FlowFest is something that we started nearly exactly a year ago, actually. And we started it because of Salesforce Flow becoming a lot more popular and being the default automation tool. So it's an hour-long event that we've run 3 of now, and the next one is in a month's time. So feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you like, and you'll stay updated about it. But it's basically a competition where we have about 200, 300 competitors who all want to become the FlowFest champion. So we have a number of challenges that they have to run through, and they're pretty hard. There's about 5 challenges, and then so while everyone is actually doing the competition, I'm hosting an event, and we have guest speakers to speak about flow topics, teach you best practices, and there's something for everyone. If you're an expert of flow or a newbie, there's something for everyone. So we go through that. And then at the end, we crown the FlowFest champion. This time, and I'm not making any promises, but because the competition is behind closed doors, you can't really see what's going on. But this time, what we think we're going to do is have 200 competitors, and then we're going to the first 4 to complete all 5 challenges will then go in a head-to-head, and then we'll share the screens of all those 4 people so that everyone can see what they're actually building. So we're going to try and do that this time, which should be quite cool.
It will be very good. If you, are you extend this competition with Apex Fest coding challenge?
It's with Ohanali, the Flow Fest.
I think he would like to ask that, are you planning to create an Apex challenge fest?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Apex, yeah, possibly. That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, leave that with me. I'll discuss that with Eric, who runs Ohanali. But yeah, good idea.
Thank you for your time. If there are no more questions, we can wrap up. Hatice.
Thank you, Ben. We really appreciate you being here. You arranged your time for us, and you provided all the insights, your success story. I'm sure that would have been motivated to all our audience who are looking up to you. Thank you once again on behalf of Clarusway. And I would recommend everyone to connect Salesforce, Ben, and also yourself, Ben, on LinkedIn and other social medias. We will absolutely keep promoting your website using on our daily activities. Regardless you're in the technical side or not, we still use your website, like I said, for soft skills, interview questions. The URL website that you've just shared, I've actually looked at it and I found that quite useful. So thank you once again for all your contribution to the Salesforce Ohana.
And
No
one quick reminder, tomorrow we will have Megan Tuana as a event. So
okay.
I would like to remind everyone.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure, everyone. And Megan's great, so you'll have a great time tomorrow. But yeah, thank you for the invite.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good one.
Thank
See ya.
you for the attendance.